And so that's an exact example of where I situate in the center of a customer who needs a good utility to overcome a problem, and Amazon, who is providing a situation that we need to resolve. And so, I situate myself right in the center there, and I say, what is the problem the customer might experience? And that is that there's new fees that are associated. And how do we give them the information or the technology to overcome that? And what are the potential solutions?
E-commerce is the greatest business opportunity of our generation.
Yo, what is up, people? It is your boy Kaj back in the virtual studios. Today, I have Adrian Rich, who is the general manager at SellerAmp, on the podcast with me today. Josh was not able to join, so just me and Adrian, we're going to be talking about all sorts of stuff. He has a very cool career path and a lot of knowledge that he can share that will give you guys value. So, Adrian, thanks for making time, man.
Kaj, man, so glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the pod.
Yes. So you are not a seller, but you work with a company that works directly with a lot of sellers. So you have a unique perspective on the space. I kind of just want to first hear a little bit about you, like your career path, your background, like what are your skill sets, what are your strengths, and then we'll kind of just flow in the conversation from there. Totally,
man, 100%. So I guess the best place to start is, what are like the tools of my trade, and by profession, I am a product manager. A nerdy type of guy that really fell in love with technology really early. And like you said, I'm not a seller, but my job as a product manager is to build really wonderful solutions to problems. And so it doesn't really matter what industry that is in. Right now, I'm situated in the seller community and e-commerce, but in previous positions, I was a product manager in sentiment analysis for financial markets to help people predict trends. And before that in telecommunications. And so really what I like to do is, get down and dirty with customers or potential users of our technology and understand what's bothering them or what's bugging them, and try to build really wonderful user experiences to overcome those challenges in a way that helps them in their day-to-day, whatever that might be.
So what kind of problems and solutions have you been working on or developed, or just even examples from the past with SellerAmp?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think that, and I think we even spoke about this a little bit pre-pod, but, in the Amazon space, things are so highly dynamic. They're changing all of the time. Amazon is relentless. They're moving so quickly, opening up new programs. Even this year, let's take the low inventory level fee as an example. That was something that really rocked the community because no one knew how it was going to be played. The mathematics of it were, calculus on steroids. Like no one can work it out. And so that's an exact example of where I situate in the center of a customer who needs a good utility to overcome a problem, and Amazon, who is providing a situation that we need to resolve. And so, I situate myself right in the center there, and I say, what is the problem the customer might experience? And that is that there's new fees that are associated. And how do we give them the information or the technology to overcome that? And what are the potential solutions that we can sort of give to maximize the outcome for the specific seller? So that might be making the fee really transparent, or it might be taking that fee into consideration for automations, whether it be inventory related or pricing related. And depending on the severity of the situation or the problem, might impact the scope of the work of the development to overcome it.
Got it. Okay. So switching topics a little bit there, how long have you been at SellerAmp, and how has your role there evolved over the years?
Totally. So I'm 4 years at the company tomorrow.
Nice.
I don't know why, but it feels like half our company started in September, October. And yes, yesterday I posted a big something in our WhatsApp group, congratulations to 5 team members because they all started in the last month. So I did remember that it was tomorrow, but I've been here for 4 years. And I think when I started, I was much more customer facing. So I was very much communicative with customers on a day-to-day basis, trying to understand those problems or resolve those problems, even providing support or being part of that sales process. And over time, started to really build a domain experience around the specific thing that we do through that. and the pieces of the tech that we support sellers, because it is niche what we do, and over time developed into taking more responsibility into building out new feature sets or tools to support sellers. You know, we launched a B2B repricing tool last year, and we've got big plans to improve our analytics platform over the next year. Over the rest of this year. And now I focus a lot on the day-to-day operations of the organization as well. So, you know, when you're talking about the direction of a company, you're sort of saying like, what's the strategy? Where do we want to go? And how do we align the team members to make sure that everyone's following that, you know, priority A, but they're working independently. You know, everyone's doing their day-to-day, but you need to make sure that the vision is clear and we're all kind of going in the same direction to the same goal.
Yeah, so how big is the team that you manage?
So we are just over 30 people. We have sort of a more domestic office here in Vegas as well, and some remote staff members in the Philippines that support some of those customer support experiences and sales, and sort of work on some of those overnight shifts as well. And also do a lot of our web dev. So we've got people sort of everywhere. And, you know, I think you would know this as well, you know, being an entrepreneur, probably having team members all over the place. You know, some of that stuff is challenging because you're trying to get people that aren't in front of you all the time to sort of outperform the best they can towards that sort of vision.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more, because this is something, and I've talked with a couple different sellers about this, and you know, we have the Wholesale Network, and you know, we're teaching people about wholesale in there, and also just about how to run a business in general. You got a lot of people who transitioning from 9 to 5 life, used to being employees, and now like there's so many skills you need to be a successful, you know, entrepreneur, Amazon seller, e-commerce entrepreneur. There's the hard skills of like, all right, first and foremost, you need to be able to find and sell good product. And then there's other things that stack around that. But as you grow, like then you need to learn how to be able to hire, how to manage a team, how to lead a team. So just talk to me about like, what are some of your best practices, maybe mistakes you've made, things you've learned from your years of leading a team, casting a vision, and just making people, you know, all kind of row in the same direction.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I guess, you know, there's no surefire way of doing any of this type of stuff, and we're all learning and making mistakes along the way. And I think some trap for a lot of people, and you sort of hear this from sellers or any entrepreneur or any business person as they start to scale, is that it's really hard to align your team when you're not sort of mentoring or working directly with an individual. And as you bring on more people, how do you sort of get them to say and do the thing that you were sort of expecting? Like, you know, you're hiring someone for a role, do the role, but it's not as simple as that. It's much more nuanced. And I think that one of the things that, you know, I sort of did in sort of management early on was think that I needed to be too involved in all of the things all of the time. And the learning is about how you set context. For me, is about how you set context in the right way. And I got a lot of this from, I don't know if you've read the book, No Rules Rules. It's the story of Netflix's HR policies and like how they went about building their culture. And sort of the whole thing is if you hire really talented people with a lot of trust and you lead with context, not directives, they will always innovate naturally because they know where they're meant to be going. And if you tell them exactly what to do and your goal is error prevention, then you get really robotic people that are only trying to stop problems from occurring. And so you can really think about, you know, when do I need to provide context and when do I need to prevent errors, and then guide people with the right amount of management to make sure that they're sort of going in the right direction.
How do you provide context?
It's a good question. I sometimes say internally, and I think my team would call me a maniac for sort of saying it, but you know, it's like it's sort of my job to stand on the top of the mountain and yell the vision. Like, it's so important that I'm just all the time spewing where we want to be going, because when you don't, people deviate from that path. And so sometimes I say, like, I think like, oh my God, dude, you're talking so philosophically, like, shut up and just get back to work. But if I'm not standing there like talking with a big flag. This is where we're trying to go. How do people know where we're trying to go? And this, like you're pivoting all the time. You're like, this is not working, let's do this. But no one's in your mind doing these things. Like, it's just you. And so if you're not there telling your team all the time, this is what success feels like, or this is what success looks like, and these are the things we're trying to do from a sales process. Maybe you're trying to show immense value, and that's something we talk about all the time, is we want to show value. But what does showing value actually mean to a sales department? For some person, it might be making sure that they're available, but for another person, it might be showing really specific KPIs to a potential customer. And they're very different. And so if you're not up there saying, show value, and this is what value looks like, and we have to and repeating and reiterating, then you can't get people to follow along. So I think that's it. It's being loud and annoying. I think that's the one.
Yeah, and being extra clear, right? And kind of taking that and maybe applying a little bit into like a specific seller business, especially, a lot of people working with remote employees, whether it's in the Philippines, in the Middle East. Some people have, their prep team, in-house prep teams, like just saying, clearly defining what success looks like, clearly defining what, the goal is for the quarter, for the year, maybe for the next couple of years, communicating that clearly, and then also incentivizing people, based on hitting and exceeding those KPIs.
And then just stepping away and letting your people perform, because it's so easy to get stuck in the nitty gritty of what they're doing. And I say this to my team all the time, especially to Danny, one of our marketing team members. I'm like, if you ask me my opinion, I will tell it to you. And I'm sort of saying, like, don't ask me because I trust you. You're brilliant at what you do, but don't ask me because then I'll tell you when you get stuck having to fix the thing. Do you know what I mean? So you want to trust your people. You want to give them the context. You want to trust them to do their job.
Yeah. Great stuff. Two books that come to mind for me, Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, and I'm actually listening through Traction right now for
Classic.
the EOS. Yeah.
So I haven't read the first one. What was it? What was it again? Buy Back Your Time.
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell.
Right, yeah, but yeah, Traction's a classic.
Absolute classic.
Yeah.
Great.
So I was just going to say, when you said like setting those like mini milestones along the way, I'm like, yeah, like we're talking about rocks, like he knows Traction.
Yep. Yeah, I'm literally listening to it right now, so you can tell. That's great. Okay, so switching gears a little bit, you said you were just recently at some of the big Amazon conferences. So talk to me about like what you learned from there, where you see Amazon going in the future, because I was not at those, so I would just love to hear from you too.
Yeah, so I'll just give some context to you and the audience. So I was not at Amazon Accelerate, which is probably based on the one that everyone thinks that you're talking about. I was at two conferences. One was a few weeks before Accelerate in Seattle, and the other one was last weekend in London. And they're called the SP API Developer Summits. And essentially it is, they host two of these a year where they bring together developers or solution providers like us. And there's, there can be sellers there, but it's not catered towards sellers, it's catered towards solution providers. And it's an opportunity to share with everyone the technology that underpins all third-party developer solutions like SellerSnap.
Got it. Okay.
And so they sort of go through the roadmap of, what are they releasing this year, what's available, what's coming out. And it sort of helps us determine what's Amazon trying to achieve. What do they want sellers to be doing, and how are they getting their developer partners to build technologies to help you guys get there?
Got it. Okay. So any new big developments or things that you think would be relevant for sellers to hear?
Yeah, I think if anyone attended Accelerate, they would have got a lot of this stuff already, because it's obviously one's catered towards the seller and one's catered towards the developer, but then there's that convergence of how the tech gets there. And so, in the last 2 years, there was this huge push on supply chain by Amazon. But I think one of the standouts from our conference was the Amazon warehouse and distribution, which is sort of, for those that don't know, it is sort of like 3PL for pre-FBA. And they're building a bunch of APIs to help support that. So one of the things about the program, and they're really pushing it, but one of the things about the program that I thought was interesting that I learned that is much more seller specific is that, if you're in AWD and you turn on automatic replenishments, So you send in bulk to AWD, you pay by volume at a lower cost than FBA, and you turn on order replenishment. They guarantee your inventory to get into an FBA fulfillment center, or like FC transfer, between 2 and 7 days. And when it's on, you don't get charged the low inventory level fee. So it's sort of like an economic play to say, we've given you this new fee, but if you want to avoid it, use us for your pre-storage. And we also guarantee that it gets there really quickly. And I think it was a bit ambiguous, but, talking about Q4 and warehouse limits, if you have a good selling product and you're unsure of if you're going to be able to get enough inventory in, you don't know if you're going to sell out and get that fee. But mainly you just want to make sure you're selling products the whole way through Q4. Well, I think this is a way to it seems like it's a way to guarantee that even past those cutoff dates, you can still get inventory into FBA. And I think that's really interesting. So I went a bit too specific there, not so much on the tech, but I think that's interesting, and it's an indication of they're going to start really pushing this.
Got it. And then I always like to make sure just to define some acronyms because sometimes we have new listeners. So
totally.
You define AWD, 3PL, and then also API, just what those are.
Yeah, totally. I'm just putting together letters. It's a crossword. So AWD, Amazon Warehouse and Distribution. It is their pre-fulfillment by Amazon storage. So like I said, you send larger quantities of inventory directly there and pay by volume, and then you can send to FBA or other multi-channel fulfillment type inventory solutions, like you could go straight to Walmart, or if you had your own private thing. 3PL, third-party logistics. So these are, I guess, technically services and warehouse space that you can rent outside of sort of the Amazon world. People offer these types of services, and so you can you could manage your fulfillment by merchant FBM listings directly from there, or use it to get stuff into FBA. And then the API, I think that's maybe the most important one for what I do. Application programming interface, but essentially it's a way to have programs talk to each other. So SP API is Amazon's selling partner API, and it is the way that third-party solutions like SellerSnap communicate with Seller Central to get data, or update prices, or change inventory, or do PPC, pay-per-click. Like, to do anything we do it through an API, and the one we do for most of the work that we do is the SP API, selling partner API.
Yep. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And that API is super, super important. And that's one of the really powerful things about Amazon is how much work they've put into that and the amount of solution providers that are able to communicate with it. Because obviously, like Walmart, one of the only companies that has logistics even capable of sniffing, competing with Amazon, like they're just still building up their API. So there's so many things that because like I sell on Walmart a little bit too, and there's so many things I'm used to just going and like, all right, I can load up this tool, load up this tool, load up this tool, and see all this data, right? And you go to Walmart, it's like, oh, the API doesn't even give this data yet. So it's coming eventually, I'm sure, but it's like, it's something that we can take for granted on Amazon of how advanced it is.
For sure, and it's a big marketplace, and it's just a big part of the business. And I think people forget that a big part of Walmart, they're brick and mortar as well, so they're focusing on their day to day. But the technology is really important, and it's up and coming, and it will get there, and there'll be amazing tools and features on the back of it. And 7 years ago, when we were just building this tool for the first time, I talked like I wasn't there, I was here for 4, but 7 years ago when the company started, we were invited to Seattle to visit and talk to one of the product managers on their API. They were just like meet up and just like went for coffee because they weren't even there. Like they weren't, and now they're hosting multiple conferences around the world. So you can see where Amazon's come from, and if Walmart's anything like it, they'll go on that same trajectory. They're also doing, what's it called? Walmart, I forget its name. They've got their annual seller conference they're doing now.
Yep.
Like Amazon
that
Accelerate.
just happened too. Yep.
Yeah. So
it
I
looks
assume
really good. They have a lot of plans coming out.
Yeah. I actually didn't see so much about it, but the decor or like the decorations of the event and the lighting looked really cool.
Yeah.
They
put a lot of effort.
They invested. Yeah.
They really did. Right. Oh yeah. Let's transition now and talk specifically about SellerSnap. So you actually mentioned kind of like the beginning days. Do you know like what's the company story? What inspired the start of it? And then we can transition into talking about like the uniqueness of the technology that you guys have.
Yeah, so I do know the story. So Ellie and Yuval, the founders, they were in this space, technologists in e-commerce software for Amazon, sort of moving around, and they sort of came together and were like, well, we can do this thing, and they built this tool. So this is seven, maybe almost 8 years ago now, and they just started, the two of them, building the software and finding sellers and offering them solutions, and being very ad hoc about like the features that they built. And the sort of growth was continuous, but sort of slow, slow for the first couple of years. And I think in the last 2 years, we've really been able to hit the nail on the head around the technology that we offer and be able to demonstrate the value in it to sellers, and have sort of seen sort of a bit more of that growth. And now we've gone from those 2 to 30 people around the world, sort of offering the solution, and really reinvesting in our R&D, really investing in our R&D this year to take the system and the solution to the next level.
And R&D is?
Sorry, research and development. So in our technical department.
Yep.
So, I think businesses, when you're a technology company, you sort of build a tool and then you go, well, what should we do next? And something that we did for a long time was say, well, we're growing in customers, we better hire more customer success representatives and support representatives to help. But as a technologist, as a product manager, my job is to build technological solutions. So, people like to have that white glove experience and to talk to someone. AI is doing some amazing things, and sometimes you don't want to talk to someone, and it's annoying when you can't do something yourself online. But it's a bit of a balance, and I think real scale for any business is about supporting more people with less overheads. You want to sell more product with less overheads, and the way to do that is through technology.
Yep. Yeah, and quickly on that too, like that's something that I loved when I switched to SellerSnap. I guess maybe it's been 2 years. I forget how long it's been. But like just having an onboarding call with a real person and having them walk me through how to set stuff up, it's like super valuable.
Yeah, I onboard tools all the time, just playing with stuff, and I want to be able to find as much information as I want, but sometimes I'll just go, this is complicated, can we get on a call? And there's nothing worse than a complicated tool and someone is just like dodging and weaving your requests to get on a call. Like, they have the staff, but they're trying to save costs by saying we don't do this except for on special occasions and put in a credit card first. I'm trying to evaluate a very large purchase that can have a massive impact on my business, like help me. And so I think, we're never going to remove that human touch, because on something as core to your business as price optimization, there's heavy risks if you lower a price too much or choose the wrong strategy, and you deserve to be given support to do that. And I think it's important that someone, I don't want to say holds your hand, but is there with you along the way to optimize, and get the most out of whatever business objective you have, which could be liquidate stock or maximize profit margin, and you need support to get there.
100%. Talk to me about what makes SellerSnap's core technology unique.
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I guess sometimes hard to explain because you don't see what's going on with an algorithm.
Sure.
Like something's happening, but you don't see it. And so I think finding ways.
You really need to be a software engineer to like really understand. I'm guessing.
Yeah, but even then, it's just lines of code. You know what I mean? Like, what's actually going on here? And software engineer, I'm definitely not, but just a bit of a nerd sometimes. But I think the best way to describe it is, and sort of the major benefit is how we deal with competitor information. So, there's a lot of tools out there, and in the old days of Amazon, the old days of repricing, rule-based, or what they called rule-based reprices, were the big thing. So this is, for those that are sort of new in the space, tools where you set predefined rules. I want to match the buy box. I want to be 1 cent below the buy box. And all they ended up doing was getting in situations where you just beat people to the bottom and ended up losing all of this money. And with the,
just go straight to your min price.
Straight to min price. You don't win any extra buy box share. No one does, but you and your competitor are now making profits way below what they wanted their bottom line to be. And I think in the advent of sort of, this AI era and algorithmic reprices and algorithms, you sort of really want to find a tool that doesn't obviously do that, but it's how it doesn't do that, because there's a lot of tools out there that can make decisions to find the right price or to automatically match the buy box and then lose and play a bit of that game. But sort of our game theory tool is designed to understand the behaviors of your competitors. So, we make a price change, we drop to win the buy box, and a competitor drops below us by 1 cent, and that pattern occurs again. We're tracking that behavior. And if we know how they're going to respond, we're not going to drop down, we'll raise our price up. If we know they're going to follow us down by 1 cent, well, then we'll raise our price. And I think something we do really well is, continuously learn about our competitors and their repricing behaviors, and then smartly make decisions to make sure that we're keeping that price elevated at that optimum buy box share.
Yeah. And so, tell me if I'm right in my understanding here, because I've noticed with sometimes like with a new listing, especially if there isn't, well, I mean, maybe if there is a lot of activity or if there isn't, sometimes it feels like at first it's like kind of learning and not getting quite as much of the buy box, but then over time, like that AI repricer, like it starts to really understand like the optimal pricing strategy for that listing. Is that right? Like sometimes it might take a little bit of time to learn and then.
Yeah, that does. Like data is necessary to make those sort of decisions. And, I sort of alluded to it a moment ago, but, the price at which you can buy the buy box is not, you can win the buy box is not necessarily the buy box price. So, sellers are unique. Your configurations, where your inventory is located, if you have specific reviews, all of these things filter into what price you will win that buy box at. Your fulfillment method, whether you're FBA fulfilled by Amazon, FBM fulfilled by a merchant from your own third-party logistics, and where that inventory is, all of these things filter in. And so a sort of not a negligent solution, but a less smart solution will just say, well, winning the buy box is matching the buy box. And that's the game we're going to play. But a good solution will play around and learn at what point you as a seller and your inventory and your products, where they can win the buy box. And so sometimes that's a few cents above the average price, and sometimes it's a few cents below. But you want to make sure that a solution is finding that right place for you, because if it is a few cents below and you're using a tool that's matching, you're not going to win. And so that's when you start to see them playing those games to penny drop and bring the price down. And so ultimately, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting all the sellers on the market. And so, you do have to give it that time to learn and make those realizations.
Yep, and that's so key, and especially for any new people listening, like understanding that. I love how you said that each seller has a unique optimal point at which they're going to win the buy box, and obviously we're not. Unless if it's the buy box is suppressed, that's a different situation. But like if you're not in the buy box, you're really not making sales. So that's so important. But having a tool that can get you at that price without also just driving everyone to the bottom is so important. And
yeah.
I mean, that's why I switched to SellerSnap. That's why I'm still using SellerSnap. I couldn't.
Yeah, it's bread and butter for a seller. I think FBA fees are increasing, long-term storage fees, low inventory level fees, referral fees sort of increasing. In Europe, the digital service tax, there's all this stuff coming in and the Amazon space that's making your margins really low. Margins have never been lower in the space. And so if you can have a product that can bring you up a few cents across, a large range or many sales, you don't realize how that filters back into your ability to replenish and reorder and then reoptimize. And, as a business person, you're saying like, what are my best opportunities in any given time? And maybe you buy a bad product, it doesn't sell well. Well, let's liquidate that. But a good product, let's, take that liquidation cash and funnel it back into buying the better inventory, and then find a tool that's going to really maximize my profitability on that and replenish, and just rinse, repeat.
Exactly. Do you have any particular rules or maybe like parameters on top of rules that are like your secret hack that you like to tell customers?
That's a good question. It really depends on a case-by-case basis. Like what's your business need? It's hard to say this is one thing that works for everyone. We recommend using the algorithm. Why? Because it is optimize to avoid price wars, sort of maximize profit and your fair share of the buy box. You think about an economic environment and you can win 100% of the buy box. Anyone can, but you just have to be priced below all of your competition 100% of the time. And so what happens is prices drop, because it's dynamic. And if you drop your price, everyone else does. It's like the gasoline station on the corner that lowers their price to $1 a gallon. I don't know, on US, I don't know how much a gallon
that's
is.
the original fighting for the
That's the fighting for the buy box. That's exactly right. And so you're just watching this on a dynamic digital environment. And so our solution is designed to not do that. But if you're trying to liquidate your inventory because your inventory is in fulfillment by Amazon and it's been there for 90 days and your costs and your fees are going up, then maybe you don't want to be optimized for profit. You want to get rid of your stock because it's becoming it's no longer an asset, it's a liability. You want to get rid of it. And so that's why we have this team that's there to support, to build these strategies to help you achieve the goals that you need in your business.
Yeah. Yep. Very good. Yeah. I'm the same way. I like to just start with the normal AI repricer. And then sometimes I think that, so I came from the private label space. That's where I did private label first. So I spent a lot of time, looking at advertising, optimizing ads, looking at keywords, and the private label product, like that's so important because if you're not ranking on keywords, you're not selling.
Totally.
Right. And then what I've realized is as an arbitrage seller, whether that's wholesale brand direct, OA, whatever, like repricing is kind of like the same as advertising for private label. So I'm looking at our repricer almost every day. Most of our SKUs, I just have them on the AI repricer. I always throw the yo-yo on there because I love getting some sales at max price and resetting there. But there's some products where I really like to play with it. Like I'll try, like I have a win buy box at 10%, a win buy box at 20%, win buy box at 50%.
Right.
I like playing with different rules, and then I can kind of see like certain ones will perform better for different listings. So I also encourage people, to like play around with it. I mean, I just find it fun just to kind of see how best I can optimize with things. But I mean, if it's something where that's not like what you enjoy looking at a repricer all the time, like if you just set to the AI, make sure you're at max price if you're back ordered, throw a yo-yo on there. I mean, it's going to do its stuff.
Yeah, and we definitely hear that. I think when I used to get on the phone with customers, sort of more in that sales process, to say, the way we sort of describe SellerSnap is the repricing tech that doesn't need really heavy manual configuration. You just kind of use that sort of game theory inspired approach and you let it go. But without a doubt, I think more and more people are getting in the roots and the nitty gritty, and they're like playing and optimizing. And there's a lot that you can do. There's a lot of customization from things like the yo-yo to different strategies, and also tools for private label sellers to sort of get in there as well. So there's a lot going on there, and you can be either side of the spectrum, as engaged or disengaged as you want.
Yep. Yeah. And both have their value. And also you mentioned earlier the business repricing. That's also huge. Like even if you don't have a huge business discount, just the fact that business pricing is enabled is going to get you more sales.
Yeah. You got to be in it to win it. Are you using the tool?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I think people don't realize how big Amazon business is, and for those
and they're really pushing to grow it.
They're
a lot.
pushing it. They're really pushing it, and the whole thing is it's bulk. For people that don't know, it's bulk purchasing. It's and not Amazon business. Amazon like B2B is probably a better name, but it's Amazon business, and it's about bulk purchasing and giving businesses globally opportunities to buy in quantities at a discount, or even for a single unit. But it's one of those questions you ask yourself: do I want to be moving more inventory through the door? And right now, Amazon business is in infancy because people aren't offering business prices. And so it's like this just new space. And if sellers can get in there and offer business prices and offer these to this new market, you're actually just in this space like the infancy of Amazon 10 years ago, when people were making bank off getting into the first third-party sellers, building e-commerce, building that hustle. And I think just everyone should get into it. And so, we do offer an algorithm for this, but forgetting about that, just, if you're not in Amazon business, you're just missing out on a market that costs you no extra money to offer products in.
Yeah, it's huge. There's a guy that I met on Twitter who he sells pallets on Amazon Business. So he has like a soap brand, and so he'll sell like a pallet of it to hotels, to restaurants, whatever.
That's
It's
serious
like,
inventory. When you said that, I was like, he's selling pallets, like he's actually selling pallets of pallets. You know, like he's the guy that supplies the pallets.
He sells a palletized version of his product, and that's one unit. So someone can just buy and pay $3,000, $4,000 for one pallet of something. It's like
and like
Amazon Business.
Without a doubt, you know, you're eating away at your margins in that. But when you're talking about business, when you're talking about the e-commerce space, you know, both for wholesalers and arbitrageurs, you need that growth capital reinvested in your business. That's your job, is to sell products, take that money and put it back into your business. And if you can move that much inventory at a time, well, you can just go buy more of it. And so you're just pushing more through the door.
Yep, exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time, Adrian. Are you active on any social media platforms if people wanted to connect with you directly?
I guess technically I've got a LinkedIn and I do have a Twitter that I talk a bit of tech. I don't even know what my handle is, so maybe I'll send it to you and we'll put it in the screen below. But
I'll throw it in
you can definitely find me on LinkedIn as well. I am active there, and we'll put it in the description of my Twitter as well.
Great. All right. And if anyone is interested in grabbing a free trial of SellerSnap, that is also linked in the description. I believe my code is Robinson for that, but if you just click on the link, that's the easiest way to do that. And yeah, thanks so much for your time, man. And guys, if you got value from this episode, please please subscribe, please follow. Helps us out a ton.
Reshare, do it.
Yes, and we will catch you on the next episode. Peace.